That is the sexy guitar of the Motor City Madman, Ted Nugent, Love Grenade, the theme song for my show. It's always an absolute honor. Ted, how are you?
I'm so good at Stupid Joe, except for the government, academia, and the media. Life is perfect.
Unbelievable what we face every day, is it not?
Well, I'm 67 years clean and sober, which means my radar is working pretty good, and the blips I'm picking up on my We the People experiment and self-government radar are tragic, heartbreaking, and outright criminal. So thank you for allowing We the People, because that's what happens when Ted Nugent speaks. It's not just on behalf of myself, the greasy guitar player, and the Nugent family, and my buddies, and my band, and my crew, and my hunting buddies. Really, I am the voice of We the People because I'm addicted to logic, goodwill, decency, common sense, the Golden Rule, the Ten Commandments, the U.S. Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. So when I get to use my First Amendment with Joe Pags to celebrate the criminal, oath-violating infringements. Did I mention criminal, oath-violating infringements, not to be confused with shall not be infringed,
right,
of the commander-in-chief as the worst scam artist, as the most deceitful, dishonest commander-in-chief this country has ever known, and it breaks our hearts.
During the conversation today, and you've given me a nice allotment of time, and I really appreciate it. I know how busy you are, but during this conversation today, is there any chance you'll start crying?
Yes, I got to tell you, Joe, yes, I could shed a tear because, again, recently, the Nugent family was involved in a benefit with Operation FinallyHome.org, a great military charity, Operation FinallyHome.org, and Canines for Warriors, training specialized dogs that can actually instinctually determine a post-traumatic stress occurrence in the heroes of our nation.
Wow.
And so when I salute flag-draped coffins of heroes of the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, the National Guard, the Coast Guard, when I witness the real tears from the loss of family members who have given the ultimate sacrifice for the Constitution, Joe, that's what the heroes of the military swear an oath to. They vow to uphold, enforce, and live by, and protect, and secure the Constitution of the United States of America. So if you really, really want to cry tears of blood, I share with you not a Ted Nugent opinion, not a presumption, not an isolated thought or a hunch. The heroes of the United States military have expressed to me over and over again and again that they believe that the commander-in-chief is the enemy of America, and that great men and women of the military have sacrificed their lives and their limbs and their arms and their eyes and their skin to watch these criminal punks in our government infringe, violating their oath to not infringe, Joe.
Yeah.
They're infringing. Do you know that right now in New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, and California, there's no Second Amendment. Keep in bear doesn't mean in the safe, doesn't mean in the truck, doesn't mean in the gun club, doesn't mean down at the range. Keep in bear means keep. It's mine, you can't have it. Bear. I got a couple on me right now, and they're loaded. It doesn't mean stored loobies. It doesn't mean under the control of a gun range, Fort Hood. It doesn't need a loophole fixing President Obama at Virginia Tech, at Columbine, at San Bernardino. I'm telling you, Joe, I'll go ahead and say it. I'm proud. I am Ted Nugent. I am a We the People citizen of the United States of America, and our president and his administration is the enemy of freedom.
It's Ted Nugent, a former Father of the Year, certainly still Father of the Year to his
Currently Father of the Year.
Also an NRA Board of Directors member, and also the Motor City Madman. He's that guy that you've heard for 40-plus years now, rock and rolling as hard as anybody out there. Ted, everything you said goes straight to the heart. I brought up crying, obviously, because the president yesterday feigned a tear and then wiped one eye, didn't wipe the other, I guess, for effect, over the Sandy Hook children. And I got to tell you, I don't remember him crying about Benghazi. I remember him going to Las Vegas the next day and partying and smiling and campaigning. I don't remember him crying about Fort Hood, as he called it, workplace violence and not an act of Islamic terrorism. I don't remember him crying about San Bernardino when people got together for a Christmas party and were gunned down by bad guys who were allowed to come into our borders because of his lame policies. But the whole indication yesterday was, I'm going to not play politics, people. I just want to save innocent people. And the way we do that is take away the Second Amendment rights for good, law-abiding citizens. This isn't going to change the crime rate in Chicago, is it, Ted?
And to confirm your beliefs and your identification of the self-evident truth and the overwhelming, unambiguous evidence to your statement, President Obama's hand-picked U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch actually said, "Gun owners beware." I'm paraphrasing. "Gun owners beware, we're watching you." Really? So you're not watching the Crips and the Bloods, huh? You're not watching the gangbangers. You're not watching the murderers and the rapists and the child molesters and the knockout punks who your so-called Department of Justice keeps letting out onto the streets of America so that good law-abiding NRA members, good law-abiding families, good law-abiding gun owners have to deal with your engineered criminal recidivism? You're watching me in my duck guns instead of the gangbangers. Boy, Alfred E. Newman wouldn't have written this in Mad Magazine. This is the planet of the bizarro cuckoo's nest, and the president represents anti-logic, anti-freedom, anti-America, and horrifically anti-humanity. His entire administration / gang is completely out of control. And they won't prosecute Loretta. They won't prosecute the IRS power abusers. They won't prosecute Hillary Clinton for lying under oath. They won't prosecute the Veterans Administration for admitting that they intentionally failed their duties to the great veterans of the United States military and allowed some of them to die. And our Justice Department won't prosecute them, but they're looking at gun owners. I'm telling you, Joe, this is a pivotal time in America, and anybody that's not a member of the National Rifle Association, the president likes you.
I'm certainly a member. And again, it's New York Times bestselling author Ted Nugent, rock and roll legend Ted Nugent, and also a guy who is very, very active when it comes to our rights, our freedoms, our liberties, and our Constitution. In watching what the president said yesterday, I just want to paraphrase something, and I want your take on all levels of who Ted Nugent is. But the president actually made this comparison. He said that the people have the First Amendment right to freely assemble like they did in Aurora in the movie theater. They have the right to worship as they see fit, as they were doing in the church in South Carolina. Somebody's Second Amendment, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but this is in context. He said the Second Amendment does not usurp the First Amendment, and those people's Second Amendment right is not more important than the First Amendment right of those who are now dead. Now, maybe I'm the idiot, Ted, but maybe if there was somebody enjoying their Second Amendment right legally in those places, we wouldn't have all these dead people. What was your take when you heard him make those comparisons?
The president's a freak. The president is a Saul Alinsky master of puppetry. Just think about this, and nobody can refute this, Joe. The president loves gun-free zones. The most innocent lives in the United States of America have been lost in every instance in gun-free zones. Now contemplate this next statement. Knowing that the most innocent lives are lost in gun-free zones, what kind of evil facilitating, complicit freak would want more gun-free zones? That's like literally saying, this is the Whitewater Rapids where all the children have died. Line the children up to jump in the Whitewater Rapids. This is Fedzilla at his most evil. This is Fedzilla on the side of criminals. You know, the president wasn't fooling. He wasn't hiding his racism when he said if he had a son, he might look like Trayvon Martin, because the president was referencing color of skin, not content of character.
Right.
I dare anybody to debate me that the president wasn't being racist when he claimed that because of the color of Trayvon's skin, not the fact that his mother kicked him out of the house, not the fact that he was a known thief, not the fact that he was a known drug addict, not the fact that he was a known thug. The color of his skin was the judgment made by the President of the United States. This is sad.
It's Ted Nugent, tednugent.com. Go there and sign up. You've got to read his articles that are widespread in newspapers and online all over the place. And again, just great music from 40-something years now to today. You're rocking just as hard as you ever have.
Yeah, I can't help myself. I got the best band in the world. My band scares me, and I'm not afraid of nothing. No, we're writing songs right now. I've got a new instrumental. It's a love song called Subhuman Mongrels Unite. So the Sonic Baptism, Uncle Ted 2016, will continue the animal breeding soundtrack celebration that I've been going on now for 55 years. I can hardly stand myself, Joe.
I can't wait to be in the front row again.
I can't. If I wasn't me, I'd be in the front row watching me.
Ted, as we talk about the love of gun-free zones, and I'm not really sure why there is such a love for gun-free zones, but you're hearing it from people like Barack Obama, who's surrounded by 15 men with guns. You're hearing it from Jerry Brown, surrounded by guns to protect him constantly. Obama's children go to school protected by the Secret Service. Guess what? They have guns. You've got Cuomo in New York, Andrew Cuomo, who just is an idiot. You don't need more than 2 rounds to kill a deer. If you got that idiot who's surrounded by guns protecting him and his family. Why is it that America won't wake up and see the hypocrisy?
Well, I got to tell you, Joe, thanks to your celebration of self-evident truth, logic, common sense, and the American way across the radio waves, and I write a weekly Nuge blog at WNDWorldNetDaily.com, and also, even though it's about conservation and the glory of backstraps, at DeerandDeerHunting.com. I write a weekly blog at WND.com and DeerandDeerHunting.com, and they're shared all across the global internet, whatever that thing is. And your logic, your common sense is alive and well. There are more and more Americans waking up. Yes, we've talked numerous times about the self-inflicted curse of apathy, where so many Americans abandon their basic intellectual, moral, and I believe spiritual responsibility to participate in this sacred experiment in self-government, and they didn't. They had NFL tickets and a six-pack, and they thought everything was perfect.
Yeah.
And it's really a tragedy. But they are coming out of the doldrums. They are coming out of their sleep. They are waking up that this president and this administration and so much of the media and so much of academia are literally against truth. They're against the experiment in self-government. They think people are so stupid that they're going to believe a Hillary Clinton's ongoing lie that Benghazi was a reaction to a videotape, even though she admitted to her own daughter and it came in under oath that she knew it was not. And she got away with it. Lois Lerner is not in prison yet. Eric Holder is not in prison yet. Lon Loriachi is not in prison yet. I'm telling you, more and more people are waking up because they see that when Obama recommends the redistribution of wealth, he's literally chanting the Karl Marx Mao Zedong theme line for communism. And then this freak Bernie Sanders, who thinks that somehow parachuting out of the clouds you get a free phone, free food, free housing, free fuel, free education, and free everything, when really those who choose to be a liability will continue blood-sucking off of the rest of us who have alarm clocks and get up to kick ass in the morning to provide for our families and be an asset to our nation. And the bloodsuckers have a president. It's heartbreaking.
Rock and roll legend and NRA board member Ted Nugent on the line. Ted, I love the directness. I love how honest you are about the truth. When it comes to the government, you've made it very clear. They're not honest. They're liars. They think they can control us. They think they're smarter than we are. They think that we're stupid. They're the leaders. We're the lemmings. They're the kings. We're the subjects. Having said all of that, let's break down exactly what this guy wants to do, what the president wants to do. If you go and fight for the Constitution overseas and come back, and somebody at the VA checks a box, you don't get a gun. If you have somebody handle your finances and you happen to be on Social Security, you no longer are allowed to get a gun. If you have a gun, he'd like to have some stupid smart technology where your fingerprint has to be used before the gun can be fired. So if I'm killed by a bad guy and my wife picks up the gun and her fingerprint is obviously different than mine, she can't defend herself. This is what he wants to do. But the mantra to the masses who don't pay attention is, Ted Nugent and Joe Pags want innocent people to die. I, Barack Obama, want to protect you. How do we fight through that and let them know what he's trying to do?
Joe, do your knees hurt like mine do from from genuflecting at the altar of truth and logic?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Mine are getting rather bulbous.
Yes.
Yes, truth, logic, and common sense, it is alive and well. I had the greatest tour of my life in 2014, Shut Up and Jam. It's not just a record, it's a pejorative. I hang out with people, and especially the best people in the world, who give and generously donate to military charities, children's charities. And when I share a campfire with these great Americans who are successful, and they donate so much money and resources and manpower to needy children and vets who deserve it, you know that you're within the glow of special, just wonderful people of integrity and spirit. And what you speak, what you believe, what I write, what I speak, what I believe, what I'm saying right now, it's not a Ted and Joe thing. It really is a we the people in the asset column of America, those of us that produce for America, those of us that know about law and order, that we obey the Ten Commandments, we understand that God gave us the inalienable individual right guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution and the Second Amendment to defend ourselves, to keep and bear arms, to defend ourselves. This president and so much of the media and Hillary Clinton and pretty much every liberal Democrat that I've ever seen squawk and open their crazy, bizarro mouths, they don't believe you have the right to self-defense. So what you and I espouse here and what we speak and what we believe and how we live, it is alive and well out there. And I'm going to tell you, as I've said on many, many different radio stations in the media and in my writings, you have to start by participating in your responsibilities as we the people. And that starts with being a member of the National Rifle Association, because if you don't have the right to keep and bear arms, you don't got squat. So there is a growing engagement out there. I think people listen to Joe Pags and go, the guy makes a lot of sense. I better rethink the issues.
I hope so.
It is growing. It is increasing out there. It's not good enough yet, because if a guy like Bernie Sanders, who, the wall came down in East Berlin, and now he wants to try communism again. I mean,
right.
My brain doesn't know what to do with this information. It's toxic. It's repugnant. It's a Caitlin moment, and I love Caitlin, by the way. But the concept is really a strange reversal of plumbing, if you're with me. And so my point being, I guess I could finish it by saying that the government is basically Caitlin and who was doing that? Diane Sawyer.
Yeah.
And when Diane Sawyer was talking to Bruce / Caitlin, can I say / Caitlin?
I don't think you can, no.
When she asked him, so Bruce, for all practical purposes, you're a woman, and Bruce, very sincerely, and like the decathlon champ that he is, I was expecting a hurdling a shot put at any moment. But better than a shot put, he literally winced and went, yes, Diane, for all practical purposes, I'm a woman. And now, the media is dishonest, because if I were Diane Sawyer, I would have said, yeah, Bruce, for all practical purposes, you're a woman, except for the penis.
We're going to do our best to offend as many people as we can during the conversation. That was sort of the goal, anyway.
Well, I don't want to. I mean, you got to be kidding me. For all practical purposes, I'm a zebra, except for the lack of stripes.
Right? No, I'm with you. It is what it is comes to mind, and I hate that statement. But Bruce Jenner / Caitlin, as you said, has no intention of getting rid of that appendage, and has no intention of not having sex with women. So I'm not really sure how that whole thing works. But
Joe. Don't try to be sure, because it doesn't work, and you can't be sure, because then you're weird too. I'm doing a metaphorical collision course here.
Yes, sir.
With Caitlin / Bruce, and the government and the media and academia. Those
Absolutely.
And only the guilty need to feel guilty. If you're a good teacher, I love you. If you're an honest media person, I love you. If you're honest in the government, I'd like to meet you.
Yeah, I would too. And by the way, Ted Cruz is pretty close. I don't know if you've met Ted, but he's a good guy.
Ted Cruz would make the greatest president this country has ever known.
I agree, because the man told you and me, residents of Texas, what he would do, and he's done everything. It's Ted Nugent, tednugent.com, WND.com. Make sure you go and buy his books, you go and see his concerts, you buy his albums, the whole thing. I have to leave you with this. I'm short on time, and I know that you are too. I have to leave you with this. I mentioned the military members, and I know how much you do for military members and their families. When they come back after being told, here's your gun, go shoot that guy because I said so. When they come back and they're told the Second Amendment doesn't apply to you anymore because something happened to you when you were in the theater of war, what can we say to them to make them understand that people like you and me and millions of others will fight to make sure they still have their Second Amendment right?
Well, Joe, you can hear the passion in my voice. You can hear the dedication and the indefatigable spirit I have to fight for this American dream. And it's not just because I'm an individual with a hunch or an idea or an agenda. I have gotten all this inspiration and all of what I say, Joe, from the heroes of the military that I share a campfire with, both literally and figuratively, across this nation. Gary O'Neill, the author of American Warrior, and the great Marcus Luttrell, and Rob O'Neill, and so many of these military heroes. I mean, they're all heroes as far as I'm concerned. They express to me their heartbreak that this government has turned on them. You're referencing that they were trained to be the greatest warriors in the world, and they achieved that condition, that capability. And then they're turned on. Their rules of engagement benefit the enemy, Joe. So when I sound angry and passionate and frustrated and dedicated, it's because a hero of the military, maybe a guy that lost an arm or his legs, or a guy that lost his eyes, or a guy that lost his brothers, when they express this to me, they might not get on the Joe Pag show. They might not write an article for WND.com. They might not go on the speaking circuit like I do. I speak for them. I'm using the words of the heroes that have come back and are currently on the front lines of the war on terror. And they believe that this president is the enemy, period.
As long as they believe it, and as long as they know that we'll fight for their right, and as long as they understand how much we appreciate their sacrifice, I think they're going to be okay. In this country, I believe that the tide has turned. 7 years of this, and it will be 8 by the time he's done. That means a sea change is on the way. This is, to me, and you might agree or disagree, Jimmy Carter on steroids. And we know how much we had to fix things after Jimmy Carter left. When Barack Obama leaves and he takes Pelosi and Reid and Biden and all these idiots, Lynch and all these idiots with him, we're going to have a lot of fixing to do, but I think that we're prepared to.
I see that energy increasing, Joe, and again, I salute you, and I salute you on behalf of we the people in the asset column of this country that obey the law and that celebrate the unique freedoms in this American dream. And for you speaking on our behalf on the airwaves, I can't thank you enough. And there's more and more of us all the time, but you're doing God's work, my friend. I spoke to him this morning, by the way, in the duck blind. And he said, thank Joe Pags for me. So carry on. The truth or nothing, we've got to fight because this is the last place. And I'll leave you with this, Joe.
Yes, sir.
I get communications. I had over 35 million Facebookers here recently. I think I'm hovering around 10 to 15 million most of the time, setting records on Facebook from people all around the world, from Europe, all across Europe. I can tell they're Europeans because often I hear their national anthem, which goes like this, bah, bah. But they express how heartbroken they are because they always look to America as a sparkle of hope, right. a glowing ember that freedom might spread to them, that America was the only place where real individual freedoms exist. And now we have a president who's trying to turn us into a suburb of Indonesia, and people around the world are aghast. And I will not go quietly.
Ted, we love the time. We love your friendship and love to your family, my friend. Thank you so much.
Godspeed. God bless America. Freedom ain't free. Everybody check out OperationFinallyHome.org. Thank you, Joe.